Okay, it is the top of the hour. I'm going to speak slowly here to allow people some time to join us. The topic of the webinar today is how to build AI playbooks. We're going to get into some really substantive demos today. So there'll be a little bit of theory in the beginning, but then we're going to dive very deep into the material, and I'm going to show you how to do this live. My name is Preston Clark. I am the CEO of SimpleDocs. That is the tool that we're going to be looking at today. But the skills that I'll be showing you relate to just about any tool. You could feasibly use this in ChatGPT, use it anywhere. And so I promise this will be tool agnostic, but I have to use some tools. So I think you'll forgive me for using mine. I'm also the creator of Law Insider. Many of you may have been invited via Law Insider. You may know me as the creator of Law Insider. I started that out of law school. I was an in-house attorney at one point many years ago, but created Law Insider a long time ago to help facilitate drafting and review of contracts. But it's a new world, right? And so we created, when we built Law Insider, it was with a legacy way of building and reviewing contracts. And the world is changing right now. If you are spending 45 minutes to an hour with me today, it's because you know it's changing and you're trying to figure out how to get ahead of it. And so I commend you for that. But I have to think about that too. Law Insider is a legacy way of drafting a contract, going to get old precedent, figuring out how to reconfigure it for your purposes. That is going away. And so we are catching up to the future, and the partnership between Law Insider and SimpleDocs is a big a nod in that direction. I wake up every morning with a lot of anxiety because I look at AI and I say, am I doing enough? Are we moving fast enough? And then I'm on the phone all day with in-house teams with law firms that similarly have the same anxiety. What do I do? How do I push this into my organization? What is sort of the most extreme version of AI adoption? What's a good place to get started? So I'm in the middle of this the way you are. Really appreciate you spending the time with me today. Let's dive into it. Here is the agenda. High level difference between a regular playbook and an AI playbook. So hopefully you have some familiarity. We're going to look at standard playbooks. We won't spend much time there, but I think some of you may not have your own playbooks in any form. And so I'll make sure that we get into that. I see some comments coming in, so I'm just going to check and make sure that there's no technical issues. Nope. Okay, it looks like we're good. Then we're going to actually get into the work. Let's convert an existing playbook into AI prompts. So hopefully some of you either in your head have a way that you negotiate a cloud service agreement or an NDA, or even better yet, you have something meticulously documented in an Excel file or Google Sheets or whatever it may be. And so we're going to talk through how to convert that into AI prompts. And we're going to do this in a very tangible way. We're going to talk about natural language prompting. We're going to talk about red lines versus flags. It's a difference between actually instructing the AI to directly modify the document in Word versus just identifying an issue. So more judgment, more control. Tell me that there's a clause that shouldn't be in this agreement. I'll decide what to do with it. You have the choice, and how you set that up is going to be at your discretion. And then we're going to test and refine. This is a really important part of using AI that is probably new to us. As lawyers, we're very exacting. That's how we were trained. That's how we practice every day. Um, we don't consider ourselves editors of our own work product. We consider ourselves editors of a counterparty work product in the form of red lines. But the idea that we would build a prompt, test it, modify it. This is much more of like a product manager or an engineer. And so these are some new methodologies. So we'll talk about that today. And then I'm going to give you the keys. I'm going to tell you how to test this. So everyone will have 30-day free access to SimpleDocs and the SimpleAI tool. Yes, we are a software company. Yes, I would love to sell you some software, but it's okay if you just take what you learn today, what I teach you today, and put it into another tool that you're using. So there's no sort of high pressure aspect of this. The lessons and the rules that I'll be guiding you through are pretty universally applicable. So take them, run off, go adopt it. I'm more interested in lawyers catching up to the future of AI and bringing this into your practice than I am in selling you software. But that is there too. So I will give everyone a free 30-day access where you'll be able to apply the skills that I'm sharing today directly into the tool. Okay, that is it. What time is it? It's 5 minutes. Good starting point. Okay, what's a playbook? Your definition may be different. I'm not going to get caught up here, but it's a spreadsheet or a Google sheet or a Word document or whatever it may be that sets out the company's standard positions. This could be your law firm standard positions on behalf of a client. You could be the in-house lawyer, so it's on behalf of your business. But if you are drafting and negotiating something with consistent volume, at some point you have developed a way of negotiating. This is really important because we talk to lawyers all the time, and we'll look at their red lines and we'll say, "Hey, Bob, I noticed that this red line is different from this one. Why was that?" And Bob will say, "Oh, I don't know. I was moving quickly." We are not perfect as lawyers. We have to review a lot of agreements. We have to do a lot of other things, board related or otherwise. And so when we get into this monotonous act of reviewing the same agreement type over and over again, AI is absolutely our friend. The spreadsheet was our friend historically, and that is what a playbook has meant historically. It's all of the rules, all of the fallbacks, all of the issues. But we would have to then use it meticulously. And I think that, the more senior we get in our careers, the more we would rather just have that hard coded in our brain and use our judgment. But we know that that is flawed. Hopefully, I'm not saying anything controversial here. And so the idea is that historically, we've had a meticulous execution of a written playbook that then we expect our associates or our more junior attorneys to be looking back and forth between Word document and Excel to then govern how the negotiation plays out. Because if a given playbook has 25 issues, as smart as you may be, it's difficult to remember every one of those while reviewing a contract you've never seen before. So this is what a playbook means. This is what a playbook often looks like, one that is just meticulously crafted. And I commend all of you who use something like this on an ongoing basis. We're going to look at one of these today, of course. This is a good building block for the AI version. But I want to be clear that the AI version is different from this. It is not as complex in many respects because the AI is so powerful. It doesn't need as much refining, but as a starting point, this is really helpful because it shows me that you have thought through all of the permutations, all of the fallbacks, all of the issue identifications, etc. Okay, this is not an official AI playbook, so someone else may have a different one, but I wanted to give you one. This is mine. It's a natural language structured set of AI prompts that reflect a company's spreadsheet-based playbook. Maybe it's not a spreadsheet, but the idea is natural language is really important. This isn't a lot of if then. Well, if the clause looks like this, then do this. You're going to see AI has reached a place where its power and its strength allows you to talk to it and say, our default choice of law is England and Wales, period. If another choice of law appears, replace it, add the following comment. So we're going to talk about natural language structure of prompting. Guiding an AI-powered contract review and negotiation experience. So the end point, which we'll show today, is that we take a legacy playbook, we convert a few of the items. We only have an hour, so I'm not going to build an entire playbook today, but I'm going to pick a few issues, convert them into AI prompts, load them into the platform, go over to Microsoft Word, run the AI against it, see how the results are, see if we feel good about those results, go and refine it, and then put you in a position to do the same. This may include red lines, comments, benchmarking, and issue flagging. It's also the case that in this new world, you don't have to only think in terms of, hey, AI, do this one thing, redline any issues. Well, maybe not everything should be redlined. Maybe you just want to issue spot. Maybe you want to benchmark against sort of your own standards and just say, hey, this is not compatible. We do this with one NDA as an example. Show me which aspects of this agreement are incompatible with one NDA. So we'll show you what that looks like today. But this is the definition of an AI playbook, or my definition, and you can arrive at your own. But I think this is a good starting point. So I'm going to pause my screen now. I'm going to go over into the platform. We are going to go build an AI playbook. I hope you're ready. I'm also going to check the comments to see if anyone has any questions thus far. I'm going to stop my sharing. Risha, yes, you will receive the PowerPoint. Will you receive the playbook? No, you won't, because I'm happy to, I'm not hiding anything from you. I can share it with you, but the idea is that I'm going to help you create a playbook. So if you don't have a playbook, I can send you a spreadsheet that gives you a structure to build your own. But hopefully you have some documentation, because playbook is effectively a set of rules. And so whether you have that in a spreadsheet or in a Google Doc or wherever, we're going to now talk about converting that into an AI prompt. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to share a different tab. I'm going to go between a couple of tabs here in this presentation. And I didn't say this at the beginning, but all the things you expect, we're recording the webinar, we'll send out the recording, we'll share slides. We're going to do this webinar again. So if you're like, gosh, this was great, Preston, would love to do it again. We can also set team events, team training events. So if you like what you saw today and you want to do this within your firm, I'm happy to enable that. Okay, this is just a sample playbook, and Risha, to your question, like happy to share this with you, but I don't want to suggest that this is what you need or specific to your organization. This is not what I'm teaching you how to do today, to be clear. I'm not even going to zoom in enough for you to really understand what this is. I just hope that this looks somewhat familiar to either what you've built before or what you've seen before. Yours may be more complicated, yours may be less complicated. You may have 50 tabs instead of the 4 that I have here. But what we have, just to orient you to it, is a few sections, columns that are relevant to us. I have possible issue. I have client's position. The client, this is sort of a law firm that is supporting an in-house team. This could be your issue, but this is the one I'm looking at today. So possible issue. Okay, governing law. Other party wants the law of an alternative country to govern the agreement. Okay, simple enough. The client's position. All contracts should be governed by the laws of England and Wales. Okay, so we have our rule. So we have our issue. Governing law needs to be identified. The client's position, which is it needs to be England and Wales. And then general is a canned response, right? This is just the canned response is something that we think is warranted in some cases to put into the side column of the Microsoft Word document. And so and then example clause language, this may come in where it's poorly written, or maybe they've just excluded it. They forgot that in this case, this is an NDA playbook. They forgot to include governing law. So we're like, hey, you missed it. We're adding it. And guess what? We're going to add England and Wales because that's our default. And then there are other rules like negotiable and fallback positions. We're going to spend less time on that today. This can be hard-coded as well, but that gets a little bit more into the depth and goes beyond the time we have. So what we are going to look at, let's look at governing law today. Let's implement that. Let's look at jurisdiction today. Let me find one more. So we have hold and protect. Term. We should definitely do term. So we're going to come up with a default term length for our NDAs. We'll implement that. And I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do non-solicitation. This is just a very binary rule, which is basically that okay, so it's just like it's not realistic to have a non-solicitation. So we'll just create a very simple rule that says, as a matter of course, a matter of policy, we don't accept non-solicitation in NDAs. Okay, so I'm orienting you to this document. This is not yours. You have different rules. Maybe you don't care about NDAs. Maybe you only care about cloud service agreements. But the rules, what I'm going to show you, should translate pretty easily into any agreement type for which you have a playbook. Okay. Now, what the heck is this? We're looking at the SimpleDocs platform. You don't need to know 98% of what's here. You don't have to worry about insights or requests or repository. I will give you access to this. If you want to test it out for 30 days, no commitment, we will do it. What we're looking at today, though, is the playbook tab on the left. You see my cursor over here. We're looking at playbooks. There's a bunch of standard playbooks that are preloaded, Electric Epona, Team at Law Insider, One NDA, etc. These are coming out in more volume. By March 24th, there's going to be 15 playbooks that'll come preloaded. You can copy those playbooks and use them as starting points, which is really nice. So the person who asked me, hey, can I get a copy of the playbook? I'm going to do you one further and actually give you sample playbooks, expert developed playbooks inside the tool that you can then copy and modify as you need, but you're modifying them inside the platform rather than in a spreadsheet, because we're converting from analog to the future. We don't want you to have to always exist within those two places. We'd like you natively to be creating your playbook here. So I'm going to create a brand new playbook today. I'm going to call it Preston's Webinar Playbook. And it's an NDA, not a good name, but bear with me. The agreement type is NDA, so I'm going to indicate that, and I'm going to create a new playbook. And here it is, and it is completely blank. There are no issues, but I'm going to add them. So we're going to add a few. We were just looking at a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet has several issues on it. We're going to pull those over. And so let me do that now. I see a comment come in, so let me go ahead and take a look at this. Excel analog. Sorry if that's too soon. So let's go back and forth. We're going to do governing law first, if that's okay. Let's see what our rule is, that we want England and Wales to be the governing law. Okay, so let's go in. So I'm going to create the item and title it governing law. So when we run the AI, which I'll show you in a minute, we know categorically what the topic is. And I'm going to make sure that governing law is England and Wales. If other, red line out. Also add comment. As a matter of policy, we require England and Wales be our governing law. And listen, this is where we expect you to make this yours. I do this a lot. I write the language, but I'm not perfect. We're going to go test it, and maybe there'll be an issue, and maybe I'm going to have to come back and modify it. So a part of this is you setting up these playbooks in a way that allow you to test and identify issues over time. This is a much more dynamic experience than the analog spreadsheet, but it also requires a little more interactivity up front to make sure it's fine-tuned for your needs. Okay, so make sure that governing law is England and Wales. If other, red line out and replace. And also add comment. As a matter of policy, we require England and Wales to be our governing law. Okay, so that's it. Response type, this is really important. We have suggestion and we have redline. Suggestion is more of a benchmark scenario where you just want to compare to maybe your own agreement type. You say, hey, we don't accept this. So if the other party is asking for it, it might be cloud services agreement, auto renew provision. If an auto renew is present, flag it for me. This is up to you, totally at your discretion. You want to identify an issue and decide at your discretion how to handle it. Red lines tend to be the most common version of this. Make sure the governing law is England and Wales. If other, red line out. Yeah, okay. This one is structured as a red line. Others might be relating to the confidentiality period is not broadly defined enough for me, or is just not broadly defined. Just flag it. I'll read it. I'll use my discretion. I may decide that it is sufficiently defined. But these are areas where going between red line versus flag or suggest are really important. Okay, so we just created our first rule. Congratulations. I'm going to add it now. It will appear here, governing law. Okay, we did it. And we're going to do a couple more of these. Let's go back to our document. Sorry, my Zoom bar is in my way. One second. Move this out of the way. Okay, let me go back to the Google Sheet. Jurisdiction. Let's do something more interesting than jurisdiction. Let's go to term. Perpetual NDAs are not acceptable. Let me expand this cell a little bit. We can accept an NDA from term of 1 to 3 years if the information is non-sensitive. What else do we have here? Okay, so let's do let's say what this is missing is we need our default. Like, what is our default position on term length? I'm going to say that it's 18 months, but that the acceptable range is 1 to 3 years. And I'm also going to say that perpetual NDAs are not acceptable. Okay, so let's go see if we can prompt that out. So my item is going to be term. I'm going to start with the default. Our default term length is 18 months. We accept between 12 and, or what did it say? Did it say 3 years? Yeah, 1 and 3 years. Let me do that. Between 1 and 3 years. Okay, what else? What else did we learn from this? We can accept perpetual NDAs are not accepted. Perpetual NDAs are not accepted where present default to 18 months. Okay, and what else? Do we have anything else here? Let's not do a comment for this one. Let's just leave it as it is. Okay, so let's go with that. I think that's pretty good. We want this one to be a red line. And you'll see, I did this one different. I didn't tell it to red line. And so we're going to go see if that's enough. Sometimes I do this. I don't even have good hygiene on this myself. In some cases, I'll just tell the AI what I want. In some cases, I'm more explicit about a red line. So we can see how it interprets this and to the extent that we need to modify it. Okay, add review item. Oh, something else I want to show you for the leaders of your organization. I don't expect your junior associates to ever be back here. This is like, don't go in the back. I go in the back room. The back room in this case is where you're setting the rules that are going to govern how they use this tool. Here's one: required will enforce the document reference this item. This basically means your team cannot override this rule. Like, if there's some rules that are like binding, your CEO is like, I don't want to see a contract that ever accepts something. This is sort of, as you'll see in the UI of the Word add-in, there's sort of some ignore capability. Now listen, they could still ignore it and go around it and actually just modify the document, but it creates another layer of enforcement. Okay, save here. Let's go do one more, and then we will pull back over. I think I said I wanted to do non-solicitation, and initially delete this suggestion from the other party. Okay, so let's just do that. I know that there's more nuance here, but let's just make a rule that says, as a matter of policy, non-solicitations are not permissible or not permitted in non-disclosure agreements. So I'm going to title this item non-solicitation, and say that we do not accept non-solicitation provisions in our NDAs if present. Red line out. There it is. I'm using red line again. I'm using that instruction. We'll see how it goes. This is going to be a complete removal where identified, right? Unless it's embedded in another, like it's hiding in another clause. If there's a non-solicitation clause, hint, I know that there is one. So I've seen how this movie ends. But it's going to just remove it entirely rather than inline redlining, which is what we're going to see for something like term length or jurisdiction or governing law, where it's not going to delete a whole paragraph and replace it with a new one. It's just going to find where that issue is present and it's going to modify it. And I want this to be a red line, absolutely not a suggestion. Okay, and then let me do one more definition of confidential information. So the client's position is make sure that the definition is broad enough to include anything we may discuss, share under the NDA, use the words including but not limited to before any list of items. So this is very specific. So this is where, like, I need you as the future AI lawyer to be able to rationalize and reason through the rules of your clients or your own business, and then decide how that gets converted into AI. And so I can help guide you and show you examples, but there's going to be a level of specificity to this that is very unique to you. And so in this case, it's like use the words including but not limited to. It's like, okay, that's good framing. That is a good approach. But whether or not we have to do that with AI, it sort of stands to reason, or it stands to be challenged. So here's what I'm going to do for definition of confidential information. So I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it confidential. Oops, if I can spell. Here it is. Definition. So that's what I'm going to title it. And this one is a little bit vague. And I'm going to say, make sure that the definition of confidential information is sufficiently broad. Now, what does this mean? Who's defining broad? Well, let's see how it goes. This is where like we could wrap ourselves around an axle here and be like, oh, we don't think AI can do this, or we don't think Law Insider has the data to sort of validate whether or not something is sufficiently broad. Okay, well, let's try. Let's see where this gets us. But also, this is not going to be a red line. So what we're not asking the AI to do is now make it broad, because that creates a level of specificity or a level of discretion. At least in this webinar, I'm not prepared to figure out or to draft for you what we think broad might be, but we're going to flag it. So I'm going to put that as a suggestion. We're going to add that review item. Okay, so here we are. We have Preston's webinar playbook. We have 4 items. So we have governing law, term, non-solicitation, and confidential information definition. Your playbooks might have 10 issues, that you might have 100. Hopefully you don't have 100, but you might. It's also the case that you can stack playbooks. And so we work with a great company out of the UK, a sports travel company, and they negotiate with lots of hotels and airliners, etc. And they have like a centralized standard playbook that they apply to every agreement, that are very much like, this is our just standard, like we got to get these terms. And then they have separate hotel specific terms that they layer in, because they know that there's a nuance to how Hilton operates, or how Conrad, or whatever it may be. And so this is where the tool is very much at your disposal, but that is also be very specific to your use case. Okay, so we did it. We've created a new playbook. We've added 4 items. Now let's go test it. I mean, that was the next item on the agenda. We're going to go test now and see how this played out. And by the way, it's not going to be perfect. I guarantee I got something wrong. I guarantee that that there's going to be something else we need to do here. And that's what makes it fun. Well, at least that's fun for me. Hopefully this will be fun for you too. Okay, let's jump in to the cool part. And by the way, no one has left this webinar, so don't be the first one to leave. If you have to go, it's all good. But no one has left yet. Oh, someone just left. There it is. I jinxed it. So I bring that up because I've done the most boring part. Now we get to the cool part. So for that one person that left, I'm sorry. I'll send you the recording. So what we have open here, just to orient you, you probably use Microsoft Word if you're on this webinar and you're a lawyer who reviews contracts. If you don't, our Google Doc version is coming soon. This is Microsoft Word. Your version may look different. There's loads of different versions of Microsoft Word. There is something called a Word add-in. If you've never used a Word add-in before, this is where they are. You can also go to the Microsoft App Store and start it that way. But if you click on this, Simple Docs is the Word add-in you're trying to download, and you can go download. There's actually a guest experience, so if you want to multitask and see some of this functionality, literally there's a guest experience. You don't have to create an account. You won't be able to configure anything. You're not going to be able to test the playbook I just created or build one for yourself, but it's going to have some preloaded playbooks. So if you want to play along with me right now, I invite you to do that. Go to add-ins, look for Simple Docs or SimpleAI. You open it up and you're going to see an experience similar to this one. I'll sign out just so you can see, for those that may decide to do that. I have my Word document up. We're doing non-disclosure agreements, of course, today, but you could do this for any agreement type. Continue as guest is an option. This is just This is actually a super powerful free tool, so use it if you'd like. But the idea is that it only has a few playbooks preloaded, and you can't do what I just showed you. You can't make your own. Okay, let me sign in because that's the experience that we want to talk about today. I'm going to use my Law Insider demo account. And I am, oh, helps if I press that button. Okay, I am in. Okay, the chat interface, I am going to show you that. We will have time, so I'm going to show you how to interface with this agreement more holistically for the private practice, for law firm attorneys. I think this is going to be very cool. I still would recommend you use playbooks because even for your clients, I think it's an incredibly powerful tool. But I appreciate for many of you, just using an interface like this will be very powerful. And I will give you a demonstration and tutorial of that today. Pausing slowly because I'm hoping many of you are going through your add-in journey and downloading SimpleDocs. I know some of you may need to run us through your due diligence to do that. We are GDPR, we are SOC 2 compliant. We work with large publicly traded companies, financial institutions, etc. So we're happy to answer any questionnaires that you may need us to go through your AI advisory board, your task force, whatever it may be. Okay, so let's look at playbooks now. This is where all the playbooks are. I mean, you go to custom. Aha, Preston's webinar playbook. This is it. We did it. And so this exists. If I click on this, by the way, it redirects me to the backend portal where I can now continue to edit it. So I'm not going to click on this now. Let's go to review. This is where the actual job to be done is. I'm going to change the playbook. Where is it? Aha. Okay, so this is a moment of truth. Let's see if I did the product may fail. I may be embarrassed in front of 69, 70 people here today. I hope not. But this is the webinar, or this is the playbook we just created live on the webinar. I'm going to run it against a standard non-disclosure agreement that is here to the left. And let's cross our fingers and hope that this works. You immediately see the 4 items, right? You saw me title these: governing law, term, non-solicitation, confidential information, definition. The AI is thinking now, it's processing. We're looking for compliant issues. So right now, it's got through, I think, 3 of the 4 and 1 more to go, confidential information. And if you remember, confidential information was a flag or a suggestion, not a red line. So we'll see, this one's still thinking. It may be struggling with that one. So let's start with what we have so far. Oh, we got to compliance. Ha, it's telling me the definition is not sufficiently broad. We'll come back to that in a second. So what have we done? We looked at a Google sheet that had a bunch of rules. We took 4 of those rules using natural language. We turned them into AI prompts. We decided whether or not the prompt was going to be a suggestion or a red line. In this case, 3 out of the 4 were red lines. 1 was a suggestion. We're now running this against a non-disclosure agreement inside Microsoft Word, and we're running the playbook that we designed, and it is processing them, and it has told me that of the 4 possible issues, 100% of them are out of compliance. And so now we get to go look and see what happened. So right out of the gate, we have governing law flagged, not your jurisdiction. I'm going to click on it. It's going to take me to that section of the document. And it looks like this document is California. And as we've specified, England and Wales is our jurisdiction. And so I can expand this and I can regenerate. I can mark as compliant. I can even mark as a bad suggestion. The AI got it wrong. I can expand the details. I don't think you can see this because I'm sharing a different screen, but this is where the underbelly is. What are the rules? How did it make this decision? So if you're curious and want to analyze how it got there, you can do that. But generally speaking, I want to look at the red line now and say, yeah, this looks good. And so I'm going to apply it. And immediately now, as you can see to the left, the red line is automatically applied. Oh, look at this. It even added a comment. Which is great. So this comment, I instructed it to add a comment, and it has done so. Okay, term, we talked about this one. This agreement appears to be 6 years. What did we say? We said 18 months was the default. We also said 1 to 3 years was an acceptable range. And what has happened? 6 years. So 6 years is outside the range of acceptance. So 1 to 3, nope, 6, too many. So what do? We default now to 18 months. Again, I can expand this and see. So it's really good at toggling between months and years as is appropriate. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this, and you can immediately see the updates take hold. Non-solicitation, this is a really clean one. This is a binary. We don't accept it. And so what's it going to do? It's just going to redline a whole non-solicitation clause out. We also instructed a comment here, I think. I can't remember. We'll go look in a second. But let's go ahead and apply that now. Aha, takes us to that section. It's now been redlined out. Great. The last one, this was a suggestion, not a red line. And it's saying that the current definition of confidential information is partially compliant, but could expose the company to risks if certain types of confidential information are not covered. So let's just go look. So I can click on this. It takes me to this section of the agreement. You don't have to read every section or the headers to get to it. So here's confidential information. You now have the discretion to decide if it's sufficiently broad. Of course, you can turn this into a red line. We can find ways to design this and structure this so that you are just redlining in your default confidential information. How you might do that is you could say, this is our default definition of confidential information. We need to ensure that the counterparty version is consistent. We don't have to say identical because it could be it's compatible or that the spirit matches, but it's not the same. And so we don't have to get super literal here. We don't have to say, if it doesn't match our definition of confidential, it is therefore bad, to redline it out and replace it with ours. You don't want to do that because then you're going to have a lawyer come back and say, gosh, who is this? Like, who are these guys? Like, they're forcing us to make a change that is just a different way of saying the same thing. I know we've all done that a time or two as lawyers, but we want to do less of it. So let's make sure that we structure this the right way. So that's a long way of saying I've used it as a flag or a suggestion, but you can absolutely turn this in to a red line. I'm going to go ahead and ignore it because I'm good with it. I think, I've looked at it. I think that the confidential information, it's a little bit narrow, but sufficiently broad for our purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and ignore it. And now it gets me to all set. So I'm done. We're launching a summary feature that'll be live next week. It might even be live later today, that will show you a written summary so that you can copy it, put it in an email, and send it back to the counterparty with the document that basically says, hey, Bob, here's a summary of what's redlined. Look forward to your feedback. But that is it. We went through it. Let me close it now and see what we got. First, you'll notice it's in my name. So I'm not going to show up in your document. This is integrated into Microsoft Word. So whoever is logged into Microsoft Word is who the commenter will be. The comment is, yeah, so look, we saw this. I'll take you back here in a second, but you saw this. I gave it an instruction to leave a comment. And it has done so in its own words, but virtually identical. You could give it an exact phrase. So if you want your comment to be exactly so, you can instruct the AI to do it. But in this case, it's used its own words, and I like these words. So I'm very happy with this result. What else do we have? As a matter of policy, we require England and Wales. The indemnity clause. I think this may have been a carryover from a previous demo because we didn't do indemnity in this one. Non-solicitation. Let's see. Okay, great. So we have a comment here. So we've identified 4 issues. We've applied 3 of them with red lines. I feel pretty good about it, but I want to go back and take a look so that you see the before, after, and the before. But I feel pretty good about this result. So let's go see the back end now and remind ourselves. Yeah, so Connie, really good question. So this is where this example. So Connie, if everyone can see her question in the chat, I might have missed this, but what is the basis for the AI saying the definition is only partially compliant? is it comparing against a particular set of forms? It's not, but it will. So you'll have the ability to either compare it to the Law Insider database. So we'll give you like a score that says this is, this is broad based on 1,000 similarly situated non-disclosure agreement confidentiality definitions or whatever. But it can also be specific to yours. And so you can give it examples and say, hey, here's an example of a broad version. Make sure that it is aligned with this scope of definition. So I didn't do that. I did a very crude version. And the end result, and we'll go back and look at it again, is it's basically pinpointing areas of the definition that from the LLM perspective seems narrow. You may look and say, Preston, that's just not exacting enough for me. And that's where the fine tuning can come in. That's where the integration with Law Insider can come in, or that's where your own more advanced prompting and your own introduction of language of an example of a sufficiently broad definition would make this much more refined than what I just did. Hopefully that makes sense. Yes. So Stephanie, coming soon. So this is the future. Everyone is asking for it. I promise it will come soon. Steph, for those that don't see it, Stephanie's saying, can the knowledge base be both Law Insider and an internal company base? Yes. And so where this is going is that you can compare, it's going to be a compare functionality. Compare to Law Insider, compare to repository, and the repository will be yours. And then there's going to be compared to standards. So Electra and the team at Law Insider will also have the ability to like just compare this to one NDA, which I'm going to go back and show you what that looks like now. But that's going to get sort of the new UI will position that alongside these other options of Law Insider internal data and standards. So hopefully that's responsive, Stephanie. But really, really good question, and that is coming soon. Okay, so let's go back and look at and just remind ourselves. So I'm just sort of reinforcing the learnings here quickly because when we were doing this before, you didn't know what it was going to look like on the front. Maybe you could have guessed, but we hadn't done it yet. So here we are now. We're back looking at the playbook we built together based on a very complex spreadsheet. We've distilled it into a few core principles. We started with governing law. We said make sure the governing law is England and Wales. If other, red line out and replace. It did that. That was the extent of the instruction. And then I also said, add a comment that said, as a matter of policy, we require England and Wales to be our governing law. It sort of created two sentences out of that, but I'm happy with the way it did it. Now, I could also say, add this exact comment. And so if I wanted it to be one sentence or two sentences, I could give it that type of instruction. Again, I made it a red line that's reflected in how we saw it. And I said it was active, which means it's turned on. You have the ability to toggle off these prompts as you go. So that was it. That's what we did for term. Let's remind ourselves, we said 18 months. We said except between 1 and 3. If we remember, 6 years was what was presented. And you know what? You know what it did? It added a comment on this. So this is where I might be like, oh, you know what? I may have to go back in and say, don't add a comment where red lines appear. So I can sort of correct that and say, you know what, I didn't like that it added a comment. I'm not sure why it did it. So I'm going to go and fine tune that. So this is where you getting really comfortable with the tool. You may be fine with that. Also, you could also just reject the comment in Microsoft, but this is where it's important for us to go back and forth between these so that our brain connects to, if it did something I didn't like, let me go back and remind myself how that happened and then let me modify it. Okay, I'm going to save that change. I see a comment came in, so let me go ahead and take a look here briefly. Okay, Cristobal, how flexible is it to customize a playbook for any type of agreement? Additionally, can access to the playbook and its privacy settings be restricted so that only the creator user has access? Yes, awesome. So great questions. So any type, right? So Cristobal, if you can imagine it, it can be here. Hopefully you were here at the start, but basically, if I go to the playbook library, just create a new playbook. You can do NDA type, cloud services agreement, like whatever you want. You're in full control of this, and it's unlimited. You could create 100 playbooks. So that's sort of the first part of your question. And the second part is privacy settings. Yeah, so we're an enterprise platform. We have to operate this way out of the gate because we have enterprise repository access rules. So in the same way, you as a customer will tell us who can access what, who can change what. And presumably, if you're asking the question, it's because you want to change a bunch of things in the back end. You want to build your own playbook and you don't want anyone else getting in there to modify it, which is sort of a very senior partner or general counsel thing to do. And it makes sense because you're trying to push this into the organization and you don't want it to sort of deviate from the best practices of the firm. So hopefully that answers the question, but if not, let me know. And then Ryan, what do we have? Do SimpleDocs learn through reinforcement? Prompts can reference past outputs and provide criticisms. So this is coming, but admittedly, we're not sure how to do it. So we have the ability to compare. So we can compare to Law Insider. We can compare to an existing data set. If that data set changes, we can compare against what's current. And so part of the answer is if you have a repository with us of precedent, and that precedent changes, then it can change the way we review and the way we draft inside the tool. The part that I'm more sensitive about is we talk about this with investment bankers in particular, is that investment bankers that are managing a high volume of agreement types, they'll accept things all the time that deviate from their standard. And what they don't want to have happen is for the AI to interpret that exception to be a correction of the rule. Because you can imagine a partner or a general manager like pulling his or her hair out 6 months later, realizing that the playbook has completely deviated from the standard because all of these deviations just led to sort of feature creep or playbook creep, and the end result is something that you don't want as a standard. So how we apply this for each customer is going to be something that we want to be super thoughtful about, but technologically it's being worked on and it's almost ready. And then we're just going to have to figure out with partners like you, what is the best way to do this so that the end result is a higher standard, a dynamic experience, but not something that is eroding your rules unnecessarily. So hopefully, Ryan, that's responsive. Okay, cool. Thank you. So a couple more things I want to do. I'm going to jump back into the Word add-in because I didn't show you chat. I didn't show you draft. So I'm going to show you that now if other folks have questions. This is the SimpleDocs platform. So I'm not showing you today insights. This is where you see speed to sign and analyze sort of deals that are moving through the platform. So we are a full CLM. And so if you have any interest in that, happy to talk to you about it. But we are a request portal so that we ensure that any routine contract that needs to be sent out is done expediently, integrates with eSign, et cetera. So not going to talk about that today, but if you see a bunch of chaos here on the left and wonder what it is, that's what it is. And you can go, if you want to create your own account and just try this out, you can go to simpledocs.com/sign up. You see it here, input your information, and you'll immediately end up in the platform and you can start playing around with it. Okay, I'm going to stop share. I'm going to go into the Word add-in. We only have a few more minutes here, about 10 more minutes. There's still a bunch that I want to share with you. I know I'm being repetitive, but I do encourage you, if you have the ability to download Word add-ins, to do this, to test it out, because as I mentioned, to be redundant, there is a guest version of this that requires no login, and you can just see what it looks like. So give this a shot. And look at that, the 6 people that just created free accounts. I see you. I know you just did it, so thank you very much for testing it out. That's a cool real-time experience for me. Okay, so we said all the playbooks are here. This is the one we just created. Requests, this is integration into the CLM. We're not doing that today. You don't have to do that ever, but that's what it is there. So if you get frustrated by seeing this turned off, that's why. I'm not keeping you from anything that you need. So and then what did we do? We just did the review experience. So now let's go look at chat. I'm going to try something very bold to start, and then we're going to go into sort of more common use cases. And this is where March 24th, you'll see a lot of very advanced, very cool integrations with Law Insider, where you're able to pull Law Insider data, Law Insider standard clauses, etc. in. But right now, it's a little more open, it's a little more basic, but it's still really good. So I'm going to turn on Redline. And again, this is not something I recommend any of you ever do, but I'm going to say, please convert this mutual NDA into a unilateral NDA. Of course, this is not something you would do because you would just go back to counsel and say, do you have a unilateral version? We're not sharing any data with you. Please send that one instead. But let's do this because it's a fun use case. So I don't know, maybe this is going to take 15 seconds, 30 seconds. It's going to have to analyze the whole document. It's not that long of a document, so it should be pretty quick, but it's going to find all of the places. It's not just Xing out the word mutual. It's looking for intent. It's looking for where indemnification is mutual and now it needs to be unilateral, or where the definition of confidential needs to be adjusted as it relates to the definition. So we're going to let this run for a few seconds. And this, by the way, at least for now, at least for a few more weeks, as a beta feature, this is available. So if you use the guest experience, hint, hint, plug, plug, that I suggested that you do by downloading the Word add-in, you can use this. This is here and it's live. So let's give it another few seconds and see. Hopefully, I've done a really good job of not having any failures in this demo thus far, and we'll see if this one stumps the AI, and I'll regret having done it. But I'm going to remain confident for a few more seconds here that it's going to give me a redline version of this entire document, which would be super cool. From there, I'm going to show you, oh, it did it. It did it. Look at this. Look at this. It's redlined the entire document. Now, you're going to want to review it and make sure that you agree with the changes. We've made a bunch of changes, and look at this. There's the apply button. So watch to the left. Watch what's happening now. It's magic. So again, I don't expect that you're going to convert something from mutual to unilateral in this way. You'll probably just go back and start with a different template. It says failed to apply all changes, but I don't think that it did fail. So we'll regenerate that. But what we see now, and let me close this for a second so we can see the end result. Now, we just redlined on top of a red line, so it's a little bit confusing because we'd already made a lot of changes, but we see now a lot. Ooh, it didn't do this. So it missed the title. It should have changed it to unilateral. So we see some bugs, of course, but the idea is that there's lots of red lines that have now been created as a result of that single prompt to change. Okay, let's go back in. Let me clear this out. And we'll go to draft. So draft, again, this is where the integration with Law Insider is going to supercharge this, but I can say, please add a mutual indemnification clause. And I know right away, you're like, from where, from whom? So this is, right now it's going to be what it is. It's going to be LLM powered, but in 3.5 weeks, this is where the Law Insider integration is going to be really, really magical, as well as integration into the Law Insider standards library. So please add a mutual indemnification clause. Let's see what it does. That should be pretty quick. And yes, I haven't looked at the question yet, but yes, this will also be able to pull from your own precedent. So it doesn't have to be some library that you don't feel confident in. It can be pulling from your own clauses. Okay, so it's giving me a mutual indemnification clause. We may not like this one, but we may decide it's a good starting point. I just added my cursor right here, and I'm going to go ahead and add, and it has populated it accordingly. So now I have my mutual indemnification. We're working on this numbering issue because so when it did that, it should have added number 4 and then correspondingly changed the rest. So that's an intricacy that we're still fixing. But you saw how easy it is. And so if you're using ChatGPT, I know we don't want to admit to that, but many of you are using ChatGPT to get sample language. You're copying it there, you're bringing it over. Right now, we're better than that. Just being native within the Word document, but within 3 to 4 weeks, it's going to be much, much better because you'll be able to pull from specific libraries and sort of precedent that is of a higher quality than just what an LLM can provide for you. Okay, we only have a few more minutes. I think I saw one more question come in. Let's see what it is. Oh, yes, the AI bots telling me that they've summarized the meeting. Wonderful. Thank you, AI. Okay. Last thing is we've done redline, we've done review. Let me exit back out of this. The draft feature, this again, not surprisingly, is where Law Insider will be really, really powerful. And so, yes, I could literally say, please draft a standard non-disclosure agreement. And with Law Insider, you'll be able to select the library. You'll be able to select, I want this based on the one NDA standard. So if you've never used one NDA, the Global Standard Non-Disclosure Agreement, you could literally say, draft that, and then have a conversation with it and say, update the parties, update the confidentiality period, update this dispute resolution method. But you see here, it's drafted a non-disclosure agreement. And again, hey, listen, I get it. This isn't the one you want. But it's a really powerful starting point. And this plus Law Insider gives you an incredibly powerful starting point. This is total chaos now because I'm just like redlining and copying on top of copying. But just to show you, I can now insert a cursor and bring all of this over. So now here it is. Here's my new mutual non-disclosure agreement that has been brought over using the AI tool. So I wanted to close out with that. Let me stop share. I'm going to go back to one more screen that talks about next steps because we are about at time. Looks like I closed out of my slide deck. So give me a second to cut over here. Okay. Let me just get to the end. So in terms of what's next, I'm going to sort of propose a couple of things. You can, let me add this into chat. You can schedule some one-on-one time with me and we can literally go through this again. You can invite other people. Let me put this in chat right now. So if you go over to chat, this is our calendar. You can put time on. We can book a session, 30 minutes, and just do this live, figure out what your use case might be. You can email me directly. You can ask for a webinar event. So if you have a large group of people and you sort of don't want to mess with invitations, we can create a link for you at a time you need, and you can share it. And we can do a training for your firm, for your legal team, for your association, whatever it may be. Where we do this, I do this all day. So happy to do it all day for you. That's why we're here. So don't be bashful. And then I would encourage you, as I indicated, to go and try to download the Word add-in, use the guest experience, use chat, use the preloaded playbooks. I didn't show you those. That's the one thing I forgot today. But it's really, really cool and powerful. I did put the Calendly link in there. I'm gonna the risk of going overtime here. What that looks like, just so you can see it, is oops. One NDA playbook right here. So I can literally run this. And the difference in this case is that it has way more issues preloaded. So this comes out of the box. So if you use the guest experience, you can run the one NDA standard, you can run the one DPA standard, and compare it. And we're going to be adding more standards. So I just want to share that this is something that's expert developed. It's based on the one NDA standard, and it's a really, really good set of rules. So if you don't have a set of policies that govern how you review an NDA, this might be a really good starting point for you. So I'll pause on that. Would love your feedback. Tell me what you thought of today, what you think of the tool. Pricing, if you ever want to upgrade to SimpleDocs and the SimpleAI tool, it's $150 per user per month. Month-to-month contracts. You can cancel anytime. We will set you up with trainings and help you implement to get your own first playbook set up should you need that capability. We're super easy to work with. We're super friendly, and we're relative experts on this stuff. So we can help get you into a good position. And you can go to simpledocs.com. All the pricing we're super transparent. So anything you need up there is there. Data privacy, SOC 2, all that information is online should you need it. Okay, that's it. We did it. 1 hour in and out. Thank you for giving me the time today. Hopefully you learned something. And if you didn't, tell me that too. I can take it. Preston at simpledocs.com. You can tell me what you would have rather seen in this demo, and I'll use that and then invite you to the next one and promise you that we'll deliver on it. That's it. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next webinar.